According to a new report, the sugar industry lobbied as well as paid scientists to downplay the role of sugar in cardiovascular disease and on obesity. Now, The Guardian reports that documents recently found by a researcher at the University of San Francisco showed that with the backing of the sugar lobby, scientists had promoted fat as the cause of coronary disease instead of sugar. So basically, they downplayed that role. No, it's not the sugar. No, it's the fat. It's the fat. It's the fat's fault. All the fat's fault. Sugar doesn't have anything to do with anything. This is what this research essentially shows. Now, this research is, and surprisingly, was backed by the sugar companies. Now, they reviewed these old documents, and they were published. The review was published in the Journal of American Medical Association. Now, the documents found showed that scientists at the Sugar Research Foundation, right, known today as the Sugar Association, paid scientists to do a 1967 literature review that overlooked the role of sugar in its role in heart disease. Now, SRF had set an objective for the review, funded it, and reviewed drafts before it was published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Now, wait a minute. So they paid for it, they funded it, they actually reviewed, right? And said, oh, we don't like that, right? Yeah, oh, sugar bad? No, we don't like that. Sugar good. We love that. Okay, great. Now, some of you might be wondering, now, wait a minute. Isn't that a conflict of interest? Well, look, the New England Journal of Medicine did not require conflict of interest disclosure until the year of 1984, right? And look, the scientists that were paid, they were from Harvard, who wrote the review that was very, very favorable to Big Sugar, made what would be $50,000 in today's money from this review. They made a lot of money. And of course, they gave the sugar industry exactly what they want. Now, the SRF was clear that its particular interest was in evaluating studies of sugar, and it was certainly happy with their result. John Hickson, SRF Vice President and Director of Research, told one of the scientists that, quote, "Let me assure you that this is quite what we had in mind, and we look forward to its appearance in print," referring to the study. This is exactly what we're looking for. We paid you. We gave you the equivalent of 50 grand, and you gave us a super favorable study. Exactly what we were looking for. I cannot wait to see this in print. Fantastic. This is what happens, man. Now, the authors of this new study also say that for the past 5 decades, the sugar industry is attempting to influence the scientific debate over the relative risks of sugar and fat. Now, article co-author Stanton Glantz told the New York Times it was a very smart thing the sugar industry did. No kidding. Because review papers, especially if you get them published in a very prominent journal, like the New England Journal of Medicine, tend to shape the overall scientific discussion. And so, since 1967, we've been living in a world that has been shaped by this study, where sugar is okay, but fat, not okay. Well, no wonder everything we eat is loaded with sugar. Absolutely loaded. But look, it's not the sugar industry that is the only people that do this, right? You're not going to be surprised that other corporations with interests also do this. Marion Nestle, who has no affiliation to the Nestle Corporation, as far as I know, who is actually a nutrition, food studies, and public health professor at New York University, said the food industry continues to influence nutrition science. And she said that in an editorial published along the JAMA report. In that op-ed, she writes, "Today, it is almost impossible to keep up with the range of food companies sponsoring research, from makers of the most highly processed foods, drinks, and supplements to producers of dairy foods, meats, fruits, and nuts, typically yielding results favorable to the sponsor's interests." Once again, no shit. They pay for favorable reviews. Of course. She continues, "Food company sponsorship, whether or not intentionally manipulative, undermines public trust in nutrition science, contributes to public confusion about what to eat, and compromises dietary guidelines in ways that are not in the best interest of public health." Now she writes, This 50-year-old incident may seem like ancient history, but it is quite relevant, not least because it answers some questions germane to our current era. Is it really true that food companies deliberately set up to manipulate research in their favor? Yes, it is. And the practice continues. In 2015, the New York Times obtained results, or emails, revealing Coca-Cola's cozy relationships with sponsored researchers who were conducting studies aimed at minimizing the effects of sugary drinks on obesity. Even more recently, the Associated Press obtained emails showing how a candy trade association funded and influenced studies to show that children who eat sweets have healthier body weights than those who do not. Can you believe this shit? Oh, no. If you eat like 12 candy bars, you're going to be in better shape than that other kid who eats his veggies. No, that's not true. That's not true. Okay? It's amazing that they put this out there and think, nailed it. This will work. Nobody's going to think bullshit. Well, I think a lot of people do think it's bullshit. But look, here's the thing, right? This definitely does undermine public trust in institutions, in scientists. I mean, no wonder people look at the scientific community on issues like climate change and think, oh, they're just getting paid. They're getting paid by who? But no, they never get that far, right? And then usually they end up sputtering out the name George Soros or something. So, but look, here's the thought, right? And the thought process isn't surprising, because if companies like Big Sugar, right, can do their own studies, and Coca-Cola can do their own studies and pay for them, and then magically get favorable results, well, why couldn't anybody else? And the climate change example here, and I'm going to use that, is that, well, hey, why can't solar? They could, but do they? Here's the other issue about that, the other hand, I should say. We know that the fossil fuel companies do this on a massive scale. They fund studies and come out with ridiculous ads and talking points. Like, for example, CO2 is great for plants. Therefore, if you have more carbon, you have more plants. So drill, baby, drill. Let's drill some oil, right? Let's burn more carbon so we can green the planet more. See, that's ridiculous, because the science actually doesn't support that. Real science doesn't support that. Our oceans right now we've got coral that are being bleached right now from the amount of carbon, the acidification of the oceans, right? We've got coral reefs dying off. We got plants, we got animals dying off. Because look, the ocean has actually absorbed most of the carbon that we put out in the atmosphere. And there's a recent report that says it's not going to be able to handle that much more. There's that example, right? Now, you also had examples of tobacco companies paying people to claim that cigarettes don't cause cancer. Oh, we said we did a study and everything, and we found that cigarettes are completely safe. Really now? Did you? It's the equivalent of investigating yourself. Yeah, I'm going to investigate myself for wrongdoing, and hey, it turns out I did nothing wrong. Nothing to see here. That's what these companies are doing. Research the harmful effect of the products that I'm putting out. Oh, look at that. It's not harmful at all. Huh, imagine that. Let's keep selling. And let's keep lobbying the government as well, lobbying the FDA. And saying, hey, look, our study showed that it's safe. So we can continue to sell this product. And we can continue to be not regulated. And that's the other thing, too. Regulation. Look, man. The whole point of this is it does show that our scientists can be corruptible, just like any other human beings, right? And the thing is that it can have dire consequences. Now, the climate change example. I'm going to go back to that once again. Now, it's not... Yes, it could apply to climate scientists. But why? Right? There's not a lot of money there. Okay? There's not a lot of money there compared to fossil fuels. Fossil fuels is a $1 billion industry. Solar energy, not so much. Okay? Fossil fuel companies have been giving billions of dollars. They own a lot of politicians. They give a lot of money to politicians in order to pass oil-friendly. Look, they've given tons and tons of money to Hillary Clinton. And what is she? She's pro-fracking, right? Pro-fracking, pro-oil. President Obama has actually drilled more oil than George W. Bush. And the Republicans, of course, they're more nakedly pro-oil, right? And pro-fracking, pro-coal, everything like that. Whereas at least the Democrats do put a little bit of, money and lip service to solar and alternative energies, which we need, right? But here's the other thing, right? Even if there is a conflict of interest, right? So even if solar studies are like, oh, solar is so much better. Okay, well, what's the harm in doing it? What's the harm in having clean air and clean water? What's the harm of getting your energy from the sun and the wind instead of from a coal mine where you have to literally blow off the top of a mountain to get to it? Or, once again, fracking well, which leaks methane into the air and can also ruin drinking water and cause earthquakes. Look at the comparison. If there was a conflict of interest like this from solar and wind, wouldn't be so bad, because look at the effects of solar and wind. But anyway, this should show you that, look, if you see a study that's funded by a corporation who happens to be in the business of selling the very thing that they're paying somebody to study, you should be wary of it. You should be like, I don't know about that. Maybe we should get a second opinion of someone who doesn't have this conflict of interest. Now, I feel like people should already know this truth. But, once again, with climate change, right, it's obvious that I think to some people, you may need to repeat it a few more times for them to finally get it. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent, non-corporate media, go to our Patreon page and become a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation.